Well, welcome to the Buddy Martin Show. We are a little bit late, as you can see. We have at the mercy of Cox Cable, where Buddy is here, but he's a little bit. It's going to be a little choppy.
Killing us, Cox. You're killing us.
They're apparently supposed to be done at 1:30. Now it's 8:30, 9:30, and then they said, "Oh, not again till midnight or whatever it is." But we're here.
Just pick one.
Pick a time. Really, I mean, it's only service in the world that you know that you're just going to get what you get. But nonetheless, we're here. The green room is loaded up. I see Mr. Whitley in there. I see Kyle Curtis in there. Hey, you know what? We're going to do a show. We'll do our best. Make sure you smash the subscribe button. Make sure that you be patient with us. We'll do our best. Tell your friends. Tell your neighbors. We're on the air on the Buddy Martin Show. Coming
do it.
It's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence.
Be defeated by technology. Will not be defeated by technology.
We will not be defeated by technology.
No.
We will not be defeated
Don't
by
come in here. Don't come in this house.
Don't come in this house like that, because now David Whitley's here and he's never defeated by technology.
Sorry.
Wait, hold on. This score just came in. Technology 543, David Whitley 3.
It doesn't matter. The show must go on. Buddy's going to be a little fuzzy. We got him knocked down to standard definition, but hey, it's okay. We've got David Whitley in the house. We got Kyle Curtis waiting in the wings. Hello, Mr. Whitley. How are you, sir?
I'm doing better than Cox Cable, apparently.
Oh, my gosh.
Boy, oh, boy, oh, boy.
Although we have a trivia question now. So, what entity has more problems going on lately, Cox Cable or Florida Special Teams?
Shots fired.
All right.
Shots fired.
Sassy.
Like
He's sassy tonight, Brendan.
He's sassy. I like it. I like it when he's sassy. Well, Mr. Whitley, welcome to the program. Sorry for everybody last night. I had feeling a little bit under the weather. We had issues last night with the show anyway, but I'm back, unfortunately. He's David Whitley with the Gainesville Sun. He's Buddy Martin, all fuzzy and blurry, but that's okay. Mr. Whitley, talk to me about special teams. I want to know something. I want to know something right now. There is, am I wrong when I say there is not a designated special teams coach?
Wait, I got a quote from him right here. It's we didn't play well, but he didn't leave a name, so I don't know.
Oh, okay. Well, that's hilarious. Thank you.
You are correct, sir. There is no special teams assistant coach.
Okay.
Which
assistant coach
is not that unusual. Frank, I was a little bit surprised, but Kevin Brockway, who works at the Sun, he checked around, and it turns out I think only 3 or 4 SEC teams have full-time devoted special teams coaches. Other ones do sort of a hybrid thing like Florida does. However, they appear to do it a bit better than Florida's been doing the last year or so.
David, here's a question for you. Who was the special teams coach that Urban Meyer was there?
Oh,
ready?
I should know that, but go ahead.
Can answer it. I know Lauren's got the trivia question tonight, but you try and beat that one. I'll stump you. Who was the special teams coach for Urban Meyer? All right.
I don't know. I will say whoever he is, they need to get him on the phone.
Yeah, well, we had him on the phone last week. It's Urban Meyer.
Oh,
he was the special team coach.
Oh, trick question.
Yes. Well, so, that's interesting in a way because, the big impetus behind not having a special teams coach is, you're limited to 10 full-time assistants. So instead of devoting one to special teams, they have 2 offensive line coaches.
Do it by committee. Everything by committee. I mean, look. You need 100 people on your staff so you can tell what numbers of the players are on. Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry.
I
didn't get that right.
Yeah, you didn't get that right at all. No.
Yeah, but Urban sort of solved the same problem by saying, "I'm the special teams coach."
Yeah.
That way he could have 9 full, well, however many you're allowed back then.
Yeah.
And Billy obviously doesn't want to be, or maybe, he didn't have the expertise to be a offensive line coach. At this point, people are questioning his expertise to be an offensive coach, much less a special teams coach.
That's just true.
Laddie Playhouse says, hire me. I can do this job.
Mm-hmm.
So
the job can be done. We've seen it. We've seen it be done here. We've seen it be done everywhere else. We just haven't seen it get done here in the last, really, since Billy's been on board. He has the quote game changer designated assistant analyst. I'll granted that they've changed some games. They certainly changed the game the other night.
Yeah, they did. Bad name. Game changer.
Bad name.
Doesn't work. Reverse.
I mean, look, I was at the game. It was hard to watch in person because, it was the one thing that kept killing the momentum amongst other things. Oh yeah. Well, there was the, 7-yard bomb at the top of the game that sort of killed the momentum before it ever got a chance to start. But that's another story. We heard from Billy and let's see, who else? Jason Marshall Jr. And was the third person was I forget in the press conference, Austin. And Austin, and they addressed it. They talked about it. There wasn't really anything said. I have to say that I loved your question, David. At the very end of the press conference, I felt like that was probably the hardest question in the room.
What was it? Where's the free food? Is that what he asked?
No, that's always the most important question.
Yeah, that is always the most important question. But I thought you asked a very probing, tough question. You want to tell everybody what your question was?
Well, it was interesting because this was obviously a very disheartening loss, and this is the first chance to talk to Billy really since Thursday night, right after the game, and you really didn't know how he would come in, and he's generally very matter of fact, the same, like 30 heartbeats a minute, Billy. Not much of a, his heartbeat never really races. But
what kind of questions do we have today? That's his favorite phrase.
Yeah, and he was very engaged and very for Billy very animated, and he seemed, and he talked about, he came right out and said, this is my fault. He fell on the sword, which it's something he had to do. I mean, he shouldn't come out there and start pointing fingers. Yeah, this is all Richie Leonard's fault, or something like that, or Austin. But he. In a way, that's always a smart move because it sort of diffuses the criticism when you're more critical of yourself than other people can be. He says it's all on me. And it wasn't all on him, but obviously fair amount goes to the head coach. And but he seemed almost motivated. I was surprised, and as I said, just enthused by what was going on. He had more of a pep in his talk about it, and I just. Basically asked that, what has this done to you? Seem more engaged, like this has gotten you fired up about what has happened. And I think he had, whether I don't think he was complacent at all. I mean, they had, they thought they had everything buttoned down. They were ready to go. And it was, obviously just a cold slap in the face, not only to Gator Nation, but to that coaching staff.
Yeah.
And I think he realized, well, okay, I got to do better, and it's not out of, gee, I'm going to lose my job. I think he asked him, he says, I just feel indebted to these people who are, well, A, they depend on me, and B, they're out there busting their butts, he knows, but, and he just didn't think he held up his end, and he's fired up to show I got to do better. He's motivated to get out there and do better.
Well, I just thought it was a question that cut right to it. You kind of, I think it caught him off guard a little bit in a sense. It was an emotional question. And I don't think he was expecting it. And then they quickly ended the press conference right after it. But I just thought it was a really brilliant question. No one had really asked that question. And it says, how are you in this process? It was a direct question to Billy as a coach and how he's feeling. He said, you seem a little animated, and it was just, I just thought it was lack of a better terms, a very Columbo style question, if you will.
I'll get my raincoat next time.
I thought it was brilliant in a lot of sense. And he gave a very honest answer to his credit. And I think he's feeling that pain. He's in the Florida Gator fishbowl. It was just a well sort of put thing where everyone sort of danced around that whole thing, which was interesting.
Just another side swipe by David Cheap Shot Whitley.
Yeah,
all
perfect.
He was doing. Set him up, give him a boom like that. He wasn't looking.
I do have his soundbite, big 50 seconds here. We'll listen to. This is Billy when he talks about special teams.
The kind of, I guess, sloppiness or miscommunications on special teams, does that make you rethink the process and not having one coach dedicated to that?
No, it's this very specific error, right? It has nothing to do with, what we do year round. It was a very specific mistake within the game. And it has nothing to do with, infrastructure or job description or assignments. It's just one very specific mistake, and one that, we will learn from going forward, much like we do every week. We make mistakes and we adjust and adapt. So I think it uncovered something that's a challenging situation and one that will work in the future.
Well, with that, and then we lost Buddy, which I'm sure he'll become in and out, and we'll see we'll see where he is there. Buddy
is much more handsome.
He is. Well, we'll welcome in Kyle Curtis to the show. Kyle, how are you, sir? Welcome to the show. Heard that you were recognized today from being on this mess of a YouTube show. Where were you when you were recognized, Kyle?
Dude, I was at the best barbershop in Gainesville. My guy Mike, he said he was going through YouTube and saw a Florida Gator YouTube, and he's like, "Hey, that's Kyle." And I'm like, "Dude, that's amazing," because I mean that's what we're going for. That's what we're going for here. Just getting the Gator Nation together, talk some ball.
Hey man, you're welcome.
Look at this haircut. I'm nice.
I know. It looks like he really spent some extra time. We just heard Billy Napier talking about special teams. I think he is the master of answering without answering in a lot of ways, because he left us with sort of a dangling sort of very specific mistake. But I'm not going to tell you what that mistake was. And I think he was referring to the two number 3s on the field at the same time. I'd never seen that called before. And that it just harkens to me that there was obviously a lack of communication amongst whomever the special teams, not coach, coordinator, not assistant coach, whomever was. But that is sort of one of those things you just can't really have. I mean, won't we agree with that?
Yeah, I think I read somewhere after the game that it was a miscommunication between the defensive back coach and someone on the offense, that Eugene Wilson hadn't because he switched numbers from this camp from, I think he was like 31 or something like that, to 3. And there was just a miscommunication on personnel on the field when it came down to filling it out. But kind of what David was saying earlier, the fact that he was animated and stuff like that in the press conferences, and we've all been there and we know what Napier is like on a day-to-day basis in a press conference setting. He's super, put together, kind of already has all of his answers all planned out, stuff like that. And to show a little animation and, I think it's going to, put a little fire under, the team's butts. And I don't know, going into the game, just how Billy conducts himself, I think seeing a special teams flag like that in that fashion is not what you're expecting to see. I think that, there was probably going to be a few growing pains with the freshmen, of course. But just kind of a coaching problem like that was kind of, I guess, out of nowhere.
May I weigh in on that answer?
Yeah, please do.
Really had,
yeah.
If I was a Florida fan, I'd be a little disappointed in that, because he specified that one play. But we all know he was talking about the 2 men on the
right.
2 guys on the with the same number on the field play.
Right.
But the problem goes far beyond that. These special teams issues have been nagging them since last year, since game 1, and if you look at it, I mean, the number of miscommunications, you could start with that. Also, they've had kicks blocked. They have yet to block a kick.
Missed field goal.
Yeah, missed field goals. Just poor execution up and down the line.
Lack of production.
Yeah, just the other night, you had 2 balls that were caught inside the 5-yard line. One of them, Eugene Wilson caught running back and into the end zone.
I mean, literally, that
is
is
a
like
mistake, but it's the kind of thing that
Two
practice and practice and practice and say, let the ball back and go, things like that.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, also just the fact, even if you execute everything correctly, I hate to say it, but at this point, Adam Mahalik, he's not going to win the Lou Groza Golden Toe this year. Florida's had a pretty good run with kickers until about 2 years ago, and they thought, well, Trace Mack, he was a pretty highly recruited guy and came in and has a good leg, but obviously, he's not as accurate as Mahalik. He'd be in there right now. But I give Adam Mahalik this. He made maybe the most pressure-packed kick in Florida history in that Vegas Bowl with 30 seconds left, just to keep the scoring streak alive. But so it's not like he's a choker out there. But I'm sorry, he's shown that his range is limited, and you just want a guy who, if your range is limited, you want him to be dependable from the 40 in. And when you go out and the other night when you drive and you got to come away with some points down there. On that first, and you missed a 31, it was a 32-yard field goal. That just gets to just the overall problem with the special teams. It goes far beyond that one play. Although sort of the two same numbers, that's become sort of the symbol of the dysfunction. Sort of like when the shoe throw became a symbol of Mullen's dysfunction. That is just taking on a life of its own. The 2 number 3s out there.
Yeah, and you're right, because that wasn't just the one mistake for special teams tonight. You are taught in, a youth league all the way up inside the 10. You let it go. You never catch anything running backwards. I mean, that's ridiculous. And it's, okay, sure, first game jitters, trying to figure it out. But you come off the field and you're going to be told, don't do that again. Well, guess what? It happened again. So
right. It's like the old Rosanna thing. Rosanna says, it's always something.
It's always something.
Always something.
If it's not one thing, it's another.
Yeah. Right. Well, welcome back, buddy. Not Buddy's fault. We're dealing with Cox Cable.
I must not have paid the bill or something. I don't know.
What it is. By the way, if you're watching tonight, we have our 56 people on. We want to say, hey, smash the subscribe button. Smash it.
Everybody, all 4 at once.
We're here right now.
Smash it.
Smash it.
David,
you're a little. You're a little bit.
Kyle, you're not smashing.
You're not smashing, Kyle. There it is. Kyle's famous now. He got a nice haircut.
Check out that haircut, buddy.
Yeah, he always gets me. I've been going to him since sophomore year. He's
looking good, dude. You're looking good. Looking good. Yeah.
Got to get ready for the first game day in Gainesville.
Well, that's what happens when you're a celebrity here on the Buddy Martin Show. If you're looking for the subscribe button, it will be down on the right-hand side, and maybe you will be recognized one day for being a fan of the show in your own barbershop, just like our own Kyle Curtis.
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah,
tonight?
Go ahead. I was going to ask you, buddy.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm going to give Billy a little mulligan here. I don't think he feels any worse than Brian Kelly and Dabo Swinney tonight, okay? So life sometimes doesn't go your way. Quite frankly, I kind of like to see that Papa says Brian Kelly get his. That's how I felt about it. And maybe even a little Dabo. So it happens. First games, we said all summer, they're tough. You never know what to expect. It wasn't a terrible performance, but it wasn't what we expected out of Florida and about Billy Napier. We thought he was making progress. It's disappointing, but I'm giving the guy a mulligan. They'll win by 150 points this weekend. And if he can bring it back against Tennessee, all is well.
You forgot to throw in maybe the worst guy, right? Is Butch Jones, who was hammered 73-0. Although he's expected to lose.
He cried, by the way.
Yeah, I don't. I'm sorry, Dave. I don't follow Butch Jones. Okay.
Yeah, okay. He did cry on one knee.
He did cry,
yeah.
And you're right.
There's no crying in football, just so you know.
It was. I'll admit, I took a bit of Schadenfreude in seeing Brian Kelly go down because, I was really surprised to read where Kelly went out and said what he was probably thinking. We're gonna kick Florida State's ass or something. He said on his radio show for Thursday night. And I know it's a radio show and you're trying to get people fired up and maybe you say things, but he also knows that is immediately going to become massive social media fodder and bulletin board material.
I mean, that's
the thing is, I think, afterwards you could see he was really humble because I think he bought the hype too. He says, no, he said, we thought we were Georgia. Says, I think he thought they were Georgia too. Yeah. And he got a big, banana cream pie of reality in the face.
Yeah, he sure did. That was quite the game. I caught the whole thing. And it was a lot of humble pie, but here's the thing. At least they kept it close, so you felt like there was a game for some deal. My issue with all of this for me, and I haven't had a chance to really voice my opinion, but it's sort of this wait and see mentality. We waited, Gator fan waited last year. It's supposed to get better, right? These guys and his personnel now, these aren't Mullins guys. Okay. Those guys are gone. Okay. There's all new guys. These are all Billy's guys. I get it. I understand that it takes time. Like, trust the process. I mean, every freaking deal that you can, cliche things that we can talk about. And I think we've been lulled to sleep. Our Gator fans, or we all been lulled to sleep by this whole, but we got to wait. But then primetime goes out with literally
man. It's a bad man right there.
And I think that was fuel to the fire.
That's for prime right there.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for the horn, buddy. You're going to have to put the horn down. There it is. Buddy Martin in the horn. But I think primetime comes out and he proves a whole different deal. It does, this sort of, makes us think about Spurrier at Duke or Urban coming up and saying, well, I remember when my first rough season at 7-2, I think everyone's like, well, I think there might be some rebuilding time, but not like this kind of rebuilding time where you feel like you're definitely going backwards. I would like to, David, why don't you kind of go and then we'll go to Kyle.
I got to do this commercial real quick. Okay. We do have to eat. All right. If you don't mind, I know you like to eat, Brendan. So let me just tell you about Titan MRI. Listen up. If you don't know about it, it's important. Worth the short drive to Gainesville. No insurance, no problem. You can pay with cash or card. Same day scheduling available. Where do you get that? Start feeling better today because Titan MRI is North Central Florida's premier, Brendan,
number one
independent MRI facility. Come see why hundreds of patients are visiting our Gainesville location, Ocala, Marion County, the villages all over. That's TitanMRI.com. Thank you, Brendan. You may continue.
Okay, thank you. David, go ahead.
Yeah, it's funny. That was a question that came up in the previous Billy press conference about how, where fans see what, Josh Heupel has done in two years at Tennessee. And he arguably walked into, an even worse situation than Billy did because he, that talk about a program that was, in a dumpster fire after Jeremy Pruitt was there. And you see, all right, so he got that program really up and running in a year. And FSU game aside, Brian Kelly, everybody would, they're saying, LSU is still going to be a contender in the West, I think, pretty good team. And then, of course, as you said, the ultimate example of the quick rebuild is Deion, although, there's a bit of an overreaction that, Colorado's arrived, but, even if Colorado settles back and they've got USC and Oregon coming up, and I think, reality is going to hit it at some point.
All right, wait, time out. I'm tired of this now. I've argued with Shane about it this morning. Mm-hmm. I see Michael Burden here is talking about it. It doesn't matter what he does from here on. David,
well, that was what I was about to say.
Okay, then
yeah. Regardless of what happens next,
continue.
He has taken a program that was 1-11 and left for dead, and he took it on the road. And he, had it, and his quarterback passed for 500 yards, and they put 45 points on the board against the, ostensibly the number 2 team of the nation last year. So he has proven that the Deion rebuild works. Regardless, he has proved his point here. That he's made them competitive. Now, I don't know if they're going to be Tennessee competitive, but it's still this whole, the whole ultimate. I'm going to fire everybody. You're out of here. Sort of like Glengarry Ginn Ross, the winner gets a kind of like second place steak knives, third place you're fired. Everybody there was fired just about.
You're fired.
Yeah. So he got rid, and then he brings it his own Louis Vuitton, luggage, and that Louis Vuitton went out there and they kicked TCU's butt, and and I was talking to a guy who went to that game, and he said it was the most entertaining game he's ever seen, because that team it's a reflection of Dion. They're just out there having a wild good time, and making people eat crow and loving it right now. So that. Get back to when people see that, and then they say, "Well, Billy, who will never be accused of exactly being prime time," and that's probably a good thing. It's like, well, if it's happening there, why can't it happen faster here? And he just explained, well,
precisely
a process.
Precisely. That's what the alumni, the rich boosters saying. How can Dion do this in one game?
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, look, and I'm going to let Kyle jump in here, but I just sort of transition and saying, I get it where people are coming. We're not building a real program. Perry Mason, I hear what you're saying. We're not building a program out of transfer portal and all that stuff. I understand that. But when you're seeing other people have success, and potentially you go and have a 3-9 season or whatever it is, you're going to feel a lot different. And at the game, I'm not trying to say, I was at the game, but at the game, it was a lot harder to ingest. So if you see a Tennessee come in there into the swamp and blow out Florida, and you're there, it's going to be hard. Kyle, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that Colorado game, if anyone was watching, 45-42. I don't know if the game ever got the largest lead. I don't even know if it was bigger than one possession. It was, for a Colorado team who was almost 3 touchdown underdogs, and for them to come in and, all the hype, literally national, that, this school hasn't had for however many long, to go in there and perform like that, break the school passing record, Dion's son, the very first game that he plays, and then have Travis Hunter, basically two guys have a Heisman type performance. It kind of makes you realize that, all right, maybe we've been in this rebuild process for a little bit. It always seems like you don't want the rebuild process to go more than 2-3 years. And, that's kind of what it's felt like the past few years being a Florida fan, especially, like you guys said, Tennessee, even right across right down the highway, Florida State. Mike Norvell, he had a bad first season at Florida State, and a lot of those alumni and boosters wanted him out. And now look, I think that they're number 4 right now. They're in position to make the playoffs this year, and they have a easier path than most to get there. But I really do believe in Napier, and I think it can be done. And I'm with Buddy. I'm going to give him a mulligan. But I think that, that Tennessee game, they got to handle McNeese State. I think they just got 56 points put up on them by, I don't even remember the college's name. So
Tarleton, whatever it's called.
Yeah, 56 points. So go in there,
that powerhouse Tarleton. That powerhouse.
Yeah, go in there, handle business, kind of win back the fan base, and hopefully get a really good turnout for that Tennessee game. Because I think that's the Super Bowl of the season.
Yeah, Buddy, I wanted to kind of ask you to talk about you've written Urban Meyer's book, Steve Spurrier's book. You've heard all of talked to some of the greatest coaches in the history of time. How much is a Dion? How much is an Urban? How much is a Spurrier and Duke, Urban at Utah? How much coaching them up matters from a head coach or not? And does Billy have the ability to do that?
Well, he sure he has ability. There's no question. The thing about it is when you have 100 guys on your staff and you can't get one to figure out who's on the field, what numbers, it doesn't look good. Things happen. I get it. I think the difference is the warp speed, which people are doing things today. And Dion's a good example. He had his complete roster overturned and started from scratch. People said he's going to get his ass handed to him. I talked to guys in Colorado.
I said that.
You know, Brendan, you know that Colorado. I've talked to them. They know the program really well. They said they may have a good quarterback in Shamir, but they got nobody to block for them. They underestimated demand. That's what they did. And I got to tell you, I heard one of the best post-game talks I've ever heard by a coach. He had those kids in the palm of his hand. He was preaching. They were going, yeah. And he knew he was preaching to them. I told you, and it was just a great post-game. So I'm thinking, when you can move people like that, that's special. Remember, David, when Tebow used to come on the field when he was a freshman sophomore, and people just get all buzzed and whatever. And when you had that kind of magnetic personality, you could do great things. I don't want to say Billy doesn't, but he didn't have that dynamic thing going. He's a master planner. I've said a million times. He's a measure twice, cut once guy, and he's very deliberate. He's smart. But in today's world, just winning is not enough. You got to win fast. And we've had a season here, and now we thought we were going to have a little bit of improvement, and we're all pointing toward 2024 in that great class. But here's the problem.
Yeah. Well,
Brendan, Brendan, just let me finish this one thing. Brendan, you know this. You talk to people. There's a lot of powerful boosters out there. I talked to one today. They're not patient. And if they say, I'm turning off the spigot, no more NIL money for you, Jack, suddenly your 2024 class starts falling apart. And that's where it's dangerous, David.
Oh, you're right. Because, when you used to a 2 or 3 year rebuilding plan, you say, oh, that's fair, because that's what it takes to turn over the roster. But that was, the portal has changed everything. 4 years ago, Dion would not be able to do what Dion did. Heck, 2 years ago before they opened this up. And now, Dion's an extreme example. The other one, I think the team that Texas State beat Baylor this week, and they had like 56 new players. And so I think people are discovering that has to be the formula now. I think Dion's formula is something like 40%, once he gets it going, 40% new transfers and 40% keep the guys you had, and then 20% new recruits is what he thinks is a new age roster will look like. Where basically you're turning over half your team every year, and that that's the way the game is going. Billy is. Well, everybody's sort of, except for they're very old school with it. Nobody's more old school on this than Dabo Sweeney, and we're seeing what it's doing to them. I mean, he has been very, very resistant to the whole transfer portal thing.
He looks ancient. He looks ancient school.
Last night.
Yeah. Dabo's days may be numbered. I'm just saying.
Yeah. And I mean, you're right. People are right. They have a right to be more impatient given the new reality of this. As it applies to Florida, I think, I still believe in Billy. He is sort of the tortoise and the hare. This is what this has become, and I think he's going to get there. But it's not an either or thing. You can be the hare and also win, and the tortoise and also win, as Dion has proven. And so I think, you're right. This is key. If they don't come out and sort of change this narrative pretty quickly, then that all points to Tennessee. What happens is coming Saturday. I don't think really, you're not going to change anyone's mind, because when you go out and you're expected to win by 60, you got, if they only win by 30, then you got issues, but this isn't even, at this point, a quality, FBS team. They're rebuilding themselves. And, God forbid it's like a Sanford redux from 2 years ago. But just assuming they go out there and take care of business, it's not going to change the perception of the program much. It all comes down to Tennessee. And, they really need to look, if they don't win, they better, at the very least, they better not have 2 number 3s on the field at one play. Because then I think the narrative is set, and people, it's going to be hard to regain anything this year.
That's a good point. I'm going to bring in this guy right here. We're Coach Lauren Meadows. Hey, Coach, why is there 2 number 3s to begin with? This is happening in the chat room. Do you have an answer for that? And welcome to the show.
A few years back, the NCAA made it where that two guys could wear the same number. I mean, I kind of think it's just one of those things. I don't know why, but they made it so. And so that kind of became a trend where a guy on offense will wear number, 3, and another guy will wear number 3. And, the Gators were in punt safe, which means usually the defense is on the field. And, a lot of times if there is a duplicate number, I know teams will have kind of in the plan that, hey, if this guy's on punt, then we got to bring this guy off, bring that guy in at corner, that kind of thing, which is what they needed to do for Jason Marshall. But I think what's interesting is the fact that Trey Wilson, changed from 23 about 3 days before the game. And on that very same play, Desmond Watson was on the field as well. Guess what number he wears? 21. So either way, they would have got a penalty. So, I mean, I think that, those are things that, and I hear you guys talking, and, I catch a lot of flack sometimes, particularly from the people in my circle about Billy Napier. But it's just those kind of things that, I keep hearing, all these things and how things are going to get better and those kind of things. And there's just so many glaring things in the game on Thursday that, I mean, it just, the 8 men on the field, 10 men on the field, just a lot of different things. And you and I talked about it, Brendan, there in Salt Lake City. It just, I want to be wrong. I do. I'm not even saying, I'm not making a prediction. I just don't see it right now. So I'm not going to sit here and say, well, this isn't going to work, because nobody wants to be wrong. We all want what's best for the Florida Gators. But at this time, I just need to see more. And right now, I'm just not seeing enough in every phase of the game. I mean, you talk about infrastructure. Yes, that's important. He's doing that extremely well. But like I've said before, and I said it for the last 6 months, you got to kick off, you got to block, you got to tackle, you got to throw, you got to catch. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters. And right now, it is very, very hard to believe that this thing is going in the right direction, particularly when things seem to be as covert as they are over there on Stadium Road. I mean, I don't get it to where everything seems to be so secretive and so, and it's like, I just, and then you got 2 number 3s on the field. I mean, you got all these people that are supposed to be designed to make sure none of this happens. And it happens on a consistent basis for now 14 games, excuse me.
I want to get a quick final thought from Mr. Whitley, because he's got to go have milk and cookies before he gets off here. David, anything you'd like to say, or what you're writing about coming up here in the next couple of days in the Gainesville Sun?
I've tried not to write too much about the Gators, just because I figure people have, had enough. And plus, I want people to read what I write, and people don't want to read much more about bad news. As I said, I think that, this week it's just a matter of going out and you want to get some pressure on the other team, because, I think Tarleton State had 6 sacks. So, the Gators better have at least 6. And you want to get your running backs more than 10 touches, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Try to just clean up some of the sloppiness that's gone on, because as it's, everybody said, a lot of this has just been self-inflicted wounds, and they just got to cut. That's what this game could be useful for, is to do that. And then, as Buddy said, this whole thing could change in 2 weeks. If it's funny how first game, it's easy to overreact positively and negatively. I mean, last year after game 1, it was all, Utah's going to have a rough time. And man, look at that AR, how many Heisman votes will he get? And they're off and running. And then, Water always finds its proper level. And so I still, I believe in Billy. I think it's going to happen. It's just gradual. But I tell you what, he really, really needs to have a good show against Tennessee.
David, you're not writing about Ben Shelton?
Oh, gosh, he's playing tonight, right? Man, if he does, yeah. Oh man, now that's a nice change of pace. That's something that everybody can get fired up about.
Yeah,
that's exciting. Yeah. Well, he's David Whitley. You find him in the Gainesville Sun. He's going to bow out. Thanks
or
for
the bar. He'll find him in the bar too sometimes.
The bar, yeah.
That's where he's headed right now. Actually, it's bar time for Mr. Whitley. David Whitley, thank you. We'll see you again next week. Always a pleasure. Have a good night,
David.
sir.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
He's David Whitley. We still got Kyle Curtis. Kyle, you'll hang for a little bit with us?
Yeah, if you let me, man.
Yeah,
I'm always down to hang out.
All right, you guys hang on. Everyone hang on. We're going to take a quick commercial break right now after we hear from our friends over at Meldon Law.
Back to Swamp Kings, I think I was impressed. I really didn't understand how hard he worked, how hard Urban Meyer worked at getting that team ready to compete in the SEC and on a national stage.
You think maybe Gator fans will value their championship legacy just a little bit more now?
I hope so. I never got it. I didn't understand why people didn't say, take Urban at his word when he said he was really sick. I understand that he went back, to Ohio State, but he did take a year off and do his ESPN thing. And, it's in your blood when you're a college coach. It's almost like you're willing to sacrifice your life in order to have the ability to lead a team to a national championship.
No doubt. I'm going to issue an invitation to you right now. Urban's coming to Gainesville the week of Vanderbilt. And I'm going to take him out to Spurrier's to bite to eat, and you're invited. How's that sound?
I would love to do that. Actually, his daughters both won the Meldon Law TV 20 Scholar Athlete.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
And so we got to know the family a little then. And, I'll tell you, Urban really should be admired by Gator fans, and they should understand that he was here for 6 years? 2005, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Yeah.
6 years. Nowadays, that's a long time in a coach's career, right?
Exactly right.
They're like, oh, he jilted us. It was like, my girlfriend dumped me,
Oh, Jeffrey Meldon, we talk over those 5 minutes. You never mentioned law one time.
Yeah. So anyhow, we are really excited at Meldon Law. We've been getting a lot of calls from people who already have cases that are asking us for second opinions.
Yeah.
And
I want to talk to you about that next time we're on the air.
Meldon Law, they will not back down. Thanks to Jeffrey Meldon. Thanks for inviting me for the little tailgate that I was at in Salt Lake. It was great to see Jeffrey and the gang there in Salt Lake. They're always representing. We are back on the Buddy Martin Show. I'm Brendan.
Yeah, guess who I ran into right at the No Name Cafe at Park City?
Who?
Other than Jeffrey Meldon.
No, well, he's the one that said Park City was rocking.
Friday evening, yep. He was hanging out. It was his birthday. He was getting down.
He's a partying dude, I'll tell you that, man. He gets a lot of fun.
He is. Well, welcome back to the Buddy Martin Show. Shortly, we're going to have a trivia question tonight from Lauren Meadows. We'll get to that in a little bit later. We want you to let you know to smash the subscribe button down at the bottom right of your screen. Let us know that you can smash. Let us know so you can subscribe, get notifications. Make sure you turn your notifications on, according to my daughter, who's 11-year-old new YouTube channel that she has.
Yeah, how about that? Good job, Stella. Good job.
I think she's got more views than we have, to be honest with you.
She'll be producing a show in a year.
Well, that wouldn't be hard to do. We are talking in our roundtable on Tuesday. Is it Tuesday? It's Tuesday. Tuesday night. Sorry for the late hour. We had some issues with cable, Cox Cable to be specific. We are sort of getting to what we wanted to get to last night, but we're getting to it more over. And I wanted to bring up the next topic du jour and hear what you all have to say, because Lauren and he was gracious enough to invite me to sleep on the couch at the Airbnb in Salt Lake. Thank you very much, Lauren. It was great to see everybody there. After the game, we had a lot of conversation about scheme, about the feeling that there needs to be an offensive coordinator, the feeling that I know reports today says that Billy's going to now hire an offensive coordinator at the end of the year. I don't know if there's truth to that or not. That's rumor. But the conversation with you and I, Lauren, talking about, there's a lot of feeling that there's no sort of strategy scheme. There's, he's calling plays from a sideline. And is that how you feel? I'll go to Lauren, then we'll go to Kyle, and then Buddy. But is you feeling like, is that what you were meaning by what you said, Lauren?
Well, I mean, I don't necessarily care who calls the plays or where from. It's the fact that I don't know what right now. It just seems to be no identity on offense. And what I mean by that is, if someone were to ask me, what does Florida run? I don't know what I would say. Would I say
a lot of
West
motion, a
Coast,
lot of motion,
pro style, a lot of shifts, a lot of motions, but ultimately, what are they trying to accomplish? And it's like Shane said last night on the show, and I agreed with him. At some point in time, I agreed. I thought we should just, or Florida should just, not we. Florida should have just, got in the spread, spread them out,
fling it,
and winged it around. Because I mean, like somebody said, I mean, the issue of not running the ball only 13 yards. I mean, you're gonna have days where you just don't run the football. I don't care how much you can run the wishbone, and it just doesn't get down for you. But it's like you don't know what they're doing. What are they trying to accomplish from week to week? And there's an old saying in coaching is, whatever you run is good as long as it's sound and your kids believe it. Well, that's the thing. It's like what is going on and what are they running? It's like they ran 7 different offenses in 4 quarters, and that may be what they're trying to get at. But it just, like I said, if someone was to ask any of us, the 4 of us who I think watch a lot of football, know a lot about football, but also watch a ton of Florida football, what do the Gators run on offense? I don't know what you would say that offense is, and other than maybe saying it's zone run dependent, which may, otherwise I just don't know. So yes, I mean, I don't care who calls the play. I don't, and whether you call it from the sideline or the booth, but it just like right now there is zero identity to that offense, in my opinion.
Kyle, what's your opinion there? Oh, you're muted, Kyle. You're muted.
Oh, my bad. More personnel wise, kind of going off what Lauren was saying, and I'm guilty of it as well. I mean, all off season, all you hear about is, we got all these running backs. We're going to be a ground and pound team. That's going to be our identity. And going off what Lauren said, we lost our identity right there on that first drive when we went 3 and out, and then they hit that 70-yarder. It felt deflating, and I don't know if Napier felt that from the sideline. He felt a little bit pressure that you need to start throwing the ball backs against the wall, that he's strayed away from the run game. But I mean, if Montrell Johnson, 4-year guy, all conference player, experienced guy, getting 2 or 3 touches, I mean, that's one of your best players on offense. And I mean, Trevor Etienne, preseason, I think he was one of the only guys who was on the all SEC team preseason. The combined 10 touches. We didn't have an identity, but I think somewhere along the line, those guys got to be a part of it somehow, some way. Then on the other side, if you're looking at Graham Mertz, I mean, he threw for 333 yards. If you would have told me that Graham Mertz threw for 333 yards and we only scored 1 touchdown, I don't. But that goes back to what Lauren was saying about the whole kind of identity scheme, especially on the offensive end. Just know how to run it and run it good. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Well, buddy, that brings up an interesting question. Of those 333 yards for Graham Mertz, are his stats for the game as accurate as he played, in your opinion?
They're better than he played. I mean, 333 yards.
Well, that's my question.
And I think you look at things like he did hold the ball long. I defer to Shane Matthews. He knows a little bit about playing quarterback. He played it successfully at the championship level of Florida, and then played for 6 teams in the NFL and coached the Orlando Guardians. And he says this, and I trust Shane, he says he predicted he was always just all he's got to do is hand the ball off. No, he's not a game manager. He likes to throw the football, and he throws it pretty darn well. Now, you might say he didn't get the protection he needed. Yeah, there was a few timing issues off the Pearsall interception and all that. But they got some ballers out there who can really fly. And we've seen Pearsall not have his best game. But boy, oh boy, oh boy, that Eugene Wilson, Trey Wilson, and we hadn't even seen Aiden Mizell and Andy Jean yet. And I think this is the burden that Billy's got on him. Get the ball in the hands of the playmakers. If they're stopping your run, and they were, by the way, there were too many men in the box. You cannot run with too many men in the box. You're not going to make yardage. But you know what? There's always a way to get the guys open. So if they're in the box, you throw the little flat route. You throw the ball to them outside and get the ball in the hands of Etienne or whoever. Those guys are gifted. They didn't touch the ball. They're not a running team. We're not going to see that. That's not going to be. I thought they were a Kyle too, but they're not. And I'll tell you, the offensive line has got to get a little better. I realize they're missing some guys with injuries. Some guys were very, very young playing out there. But I think it's on the coaches. And Billy's right. He needs to take the blame for it because it was his fault. Now, can he adjust? The big king is it's one thing. Everybody gets beat. But if you don't adjust, he's got to adjust. I'm not going to count what happens against McSeek State. They should win by 60 points. But if they go out in Tennessee and they make the same mistakes, that's not a good thing. They cannot be jumping off sides, illegal motion, too many men on the field, two jerseys. Those cannot keep happening. So I said this in my column. I'm tired after all these years of hearing coaches say every time they get beat, well, this is fixable. Yeah? Well, why don't you fix it then? And so I just tired of hearing that. So, again, I'm giving Billy a mulligan. We'll swipe that one off. We'll win a game this weekend. Play well against Tennessee. All is well. Let's see if we can wind up with 7 or 8 wins, which is going to be hard now, by the way.
Lauren, talking about sorry, Kyle, did you want to say something?
No, I was just I think that I agree, buddy, but I think that the running game still needs to have somewhat of a role within the offense. Whether it be to open up play action or whatever it may be, the running you gotta mix it up a little. Being able to run 25 yards against a team that a lot of people thought that we could have been able to dominate, especially on that front.
Because of the defense they were playing against them. Coach helped me out here. They were playing a defense that does not run. Well, you can't run against 8 men.
Yeah. I mean, they weren't going to let them run the ball. I mean, I think based on last year, I think that was one of the things that they decided that they were going to stick to. I mean, like I said, same thing. It just wasn't flowing on Thursday night. But the other thing is, like, and I know Buck Wade made a good observation, which there was one glaring sack that on a promising drive, Cole Bishop, their All-American safety, blitzed, and I mean Etienne just whiffed. And so, I mean, and it was a big whiff. And a lot of guys have to do their job. And that's what I'm saying. I mean, it was just a really poor performance. I do think Graham Mertz played fairly well. I thought he did some nice things. I thought he checked down when he had to, unfortunately, because when it was 3rd and long, they were dropping 7, dropping 8. And that's tough to throw. I mean, I know we're supposed to be throwing intermediate routes and things, but it's tough sometimes. I mean, could he have? Maybe, but then I don't think he had the time to sometime. And like I said, I don't think the coaching staff helped him with the play call. And that's something Brendan and I talked about. Like I said, the scheme just did not seem conducive to helping the players out. And, like I said, there were key times that ETM block was very, I mean, everybody talked, but you got to tote it. But, when you're in a running back, and Jabbar Jaluk talked about that too, you got to block. You got to block in pass protection, things like that. And one would think that maybe Montrell Johnson could have made that block that ETN didn't. I was actually surprised because Cole Bishop is not a domineering safety. I mean, he's really good, but, that's somebody ETN should be able to go toe-to-toe with on pass protection. And that was a big sack and a key part in the game. So, like I said, I just think that, I think, balance is always best. And I think that's what they want to do. it just how they're trying to go about it is kind of a mystery to me from the outside looking.
We better get Lawrence trivia question.
Well, we will. Just hold on there, pal. Your internet's too slow to drive the ship tonight. It's my show tonight. My show. Hey, first of all, I agree.
Right, good night. See you.
Okay, that's all right. Go ahead. Take your horn with you. I wanted to say about what Lauren was saying. Thank you. Everyone hates that.
You started.
It's, well, now I ended it. Now, listen, what I'm trying to say, Lauren, is that we talked about it, and I thought that Graham Mertz looked very poised at times. I felt like he was in control. I felt like that, when given time, when he had the blocks, he did little things. He sold that screen really well in the first half where they picked up, 15 yards. He did a lot of really, good quarterback things, quarterback IQ things. He didn't seem to get rattled. He made a couple of nice touch passes that were difficult. He's done a lot of good, I think, a lot of good stuff that I was hoping to see as Gator fan from your quarterback. So I wasn't, disappointed with his effort. I thought he played well. Look, I don't know what was the end of how many drop passes there were. And I don't think that interception was his responsibility. I thought one thing I was really surprised about was that we talked so much about Billy Gonzalez being, coming in and really teaching how to run great routes, great pass patterns, how to get open. But we saw a lot of guys not even running to the first down and being, that's like, again, a real basic sort of like you learn in high school, whatever. Make sure your route goes to the first down or further, and then turn around if you're in a button hook or if you're in a slant or whatever. But you got to be there, especially in the red zone, which is the whole issue with what we saw offensively. That was a problem. There was no 2-minute offense that seemed to have any urgency that was, when they were in the red zone, especially towards the end of the game, you thought that they would, ho-hum, lackadaisical, go down the field. We got 8 minutes. Look, there just wasn't that coaching stuff that we saw that I was surprised about. And it's hard to put that off on personnel because Mertz did have such a pretty decent, beyond more than decent game, because when you don't have a scheme and you don't have sort of creating that momentum, which comes from your offensive coordinators and these guys that they're supposed to have you prepared for that game and executing in a way that it's rote, right? I'm going to be here, you're here, let's go. And then you have all of these penalties, and they were penalties that are practice penalties, right? And that is the stuff. If you played any sort of level of football, you practice little things on where you line up, where's the line of scrimmage, when the ball is going to be snapped. All of these things matter. And at this level, I think that was sort of the frustration. So I don't put any of this off on personnel because I other than as a former wide receiver myself, you touch the ball, you better effing catch it, right? So there were too many drop passes that were right in the breadbasket. And that, look, you take 2 or 3 of those back, he might be closer to 400 yards for the game, which would have been a whole nother level. So that's sort of my take on that. We got a couple of minutes left here, guys. I want to get to the trivia question by Lauren. Lauren, do we need to set up on this trivia question?
Nah, you go ahead and just roll it. It's a good one.
All right. So the way this works, Lauren, is that what they answer in the chat, and then we
Wade Boggs.
Wade Boggs. The answer is Wade Boggs. That's my answer to every trivia question.
And then they'll be entered into the drawing, and we'll draw at the end of the month.
Okay, stand by. Here's your trivia questions, and you do it from Spurrier's, right? Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. All right.
He gets free food.
Yeah, nice glasses.
Lauren Meadows here with Gator Bait Media, coming to you live from Spurrier's Gridiron Grill with Tuesday Night Trivia. Here's a good one for you. Which Gator great holds the record for most interceptions returned for a touchdown? Here's a hint. He's pretty famous. Once again, which Gator great holds the record for the most interceptions returned for a touchdown? Be the first to answer, and you'll be entered into our monthly drawing for swag and other prizes. From Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, this is Lauren Meadows with Tuesday Night Trivia.
All right, there you have it. Lauren.
Kyle knows.
Kyle knows all the answers. That's what he does. That's no problem. You go ahead and put your answer in the chat room, and when we get there, you can see them, right, Lauren? You see the chat room?
Yes.
All right. So, final thoughts while we go through this. Real short. Let's not go on a whole diatribe here because it's easy to do, but give me your one thing that you think Billy, the coaching staff, players, whatever, what's the one thing you work on if you're Billy Napier this week to sort of, because you can't come at them with 45 things. What's the one thing you work on? Kyle, you're up first.
I mean, pretty easy, just minimizing penalties and minimizing the execution penalties.
Execution penalties. So keeping, the fundamentals, right? Back to basics, right?
Back to the basics, bring it back to Pop Warner football, line up head to head and, just don't mess up.
Yeah. Don't jump off sides. Lauren, coach, what do you work on this week? Kind of give me your final thought here.
We work on penalties before we ever snap the ball.
Okay.
So whether it be personnel, substitutions, jumping off sides, things like that. You're going to make mistakes. It happens. Balls are going to get dropped. Passes are going to be missed. Blocks are going to be missed. But if you're going backwards before you ever snap the ball, you're in trouble. And so I just think there were some key third and fourth downs and shorts where, just glaring penalties. And I know he blamed crowd noise, which there were more people at an Eastern Michigan game than there were.
It wasn't that loud.
But anyway, I think you have to eliminate those things first. You got to get all those things buttoned up. So once you snap it, you got a shot.
All right. Buddy Martin?
Well, I want to see we get the ball to Pearsall deep. I want to also see those young receivers, Mizell particularly, and Andy Jean get the ball, see what they can do, and score some points, make themselves feel a little better about themselves. We want to see some 3 and outs. We want to see the defense do something, which they should do against this team. So I think the main thing is let's get the offense humming, get ready for Tennessee, move the ball around, get some touches for the young receivers, and avoid injuries, whatever you do.
All right. Lauren, do we have a winner for the trivia question?
We do have a winner. Mr. Robert Turner is Brandon Spikes with 4 interceptions for touchdowns. One he kicked into about section 300 of the Sunshine Seats against, I think it was LSU 1 year. Mm-hmm. And so Brandon Spikes, I actually had the opportunity to the Utah media was gracious enough to allow us on the field access before the game, which was really pretty cool. I hope the UAA would adopt that one day, but Brandon and I actually got to talk a little bit before the game, and he was very pleased with the Swamp Kings documentary, talked about that a little bit, and the answer is Brandon Spikes.
Okay, well, what does he have to do? Anything special, or you'll contact him?
No, we just write it down.
His name in the hopper.
We'll put his name in the hopper.
All right, great. Well,
good job,
Robert. And Lauren Meadows, we will say thank you for coming on tonight, and we will say good night to you, sir. Have a good evening.
All right.
Kyle Curtis, thank you for your efforts tonight. Always great.
Yes,
looking
sir.
sharp.
Good job, Kyle. Good job.
Sharp with the haircut. We'll talk tomorrow. And buddy, you and I, we're going to talk about our good friends over at
Red Star Medical Research. There you go. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Right. They're great people. They've supported this show for a long time, Brendan, and they do a great job as a downtown stakeholder. They have a high-quality, patient-centered clinical research facility. They have cutting-edge clinical research trials there and things like that matter to us, like dementia, Alzheimer's, osteoarthritis, psoriasis, migraines, fibromyalgia. Looking for answers there on how to better treat those things. And they want you to come participate in these trials because by getting your DNA in there and these helps us address specifically the things that impact our health in this area. So since their inception in 1998, Red Star participated in more than 700 clinical research trials. 700. Continue to partner with prominent pharmaceutical and biomedical companies throughout the medical industry. You can check them out on redstar.net. You may qualify for some of their trials, and you may be compensated for time and travel. Ready? Red Star Medical Research, seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today. Good night, son. I love you.
Good night, Dad. Thank you. Good effort staying with it. We'll talk to you tomorrow. And thanks for all you joining us tonight. We want to say one more time that we're still running our code just because we figure we got to keep some good news in the house. You want to go to GatorbaitMedia.com, enter in code winning. I know we didn't do much of that this week, but we're still hopeful. Code winning will get you 20% off. 20% off all access. That's 1 full year of Gatorbait. We read Franz Beard, Buddy Martin, Kyle Curris, Lauren Meadows, and the cast of Dan Bond, by the way. I always forget Dan Bond. It's great photos by our own photographer, Chris Spears. He puts out beautiful pictures. Check it out. It's we got a developing message boards on there and all that good stuff. You can even watch the Buddy Martin show on there. So check it out at www.gatorbaitmedia.com. We also want to say thanks for hanging through tonight. We appreciate it. Make sure you smash the subscribe button down here. It's right down here in the corner. Just click it. It says YouTube. Click it. Click it. Click it. Click that button. Subscribe to the show. You'll get a notification. You'll be able to join in. We're going to have other ways for you all to get involved in the chat room with, by donating a couple of bucks to us and get some prizes. We have merch that has been dreadfully slow, but we're going to have some merch here very shortly. If you want to get your own Buddy Martin Show shirt or some Gatorbait merch shirt, hey, we're talking about maybe we want to bring back that Gatorbait chant. What do you think about that? Tomorrow night, we're going to have a great show. We're going to talk a little bit more defense. Defense. And how did the defense fare against Utah? And how are they going to fare in the future? We always appreciate everybody that joins the show. It really makes a difference to have people interact. And I think that's all I got. So be well, everybody. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Don't forget to tune in, 9 p.m. Eastern. I know it's been all over the place, but hopefully Cox will have their shit together. We'll talk to you tomorrow night.